Carl Jung said, "Awaken and shine your light for others to follow. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is an invitation to move differently in the world, to operate from a place of deep knowing and alignment. I'm Adrienne McDonald, and welcome to the Source Code Podcast. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Grab your coffee or your favorite tea. The Muse has a juicy topic for us today. Now, this topic has taught me a lot. It continues to teach me a lot. And the topic is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Or you should feel obligated to. I saw a post recently a friend of mine did. I think it was on Instagram. She had a picture of the book, The Courage to Be Disliked, which is a great book, by the way. And the theme of the post was around, is this your task to do? I think the context she had was around delegation, and you could be stealing someone's opportunity to grow and learn by always doing the task for that person, as well as it's draining on your time and energy. So, is this your task to do? And I got to thinking about that because it really got me thinking about one of the big shifts I've had. Now, I'm going to bring in some human design concepts around this, and also a bit from Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap, which I also highly recommend. Now, if this is the first time you've been listening in a while, I highly encourage you to go back to mid-March to catch up on my human design series. I think the first episode in that series dropped March 8th, which was how you can best utilize your energy, make decisions, and create opportunities. And if you haven't downloaded your human design chart, you can go to my website and do that. And that link will be in the show notes. So, I've always been pretty good around delegation. When I was in corporate, that's how I built really high-performing teams. Here's what needs to be done, go do it. And generally speaking, I didn't really care how it got done as long as it got done. For me, though, what I have had experience in is having a lot of projection with people expecting me to do things for them, especially like, just, can you give me this miracle? And probably the biggest highlight example of this in my career came in my last position when my CIO, I was having a meeting with him because I was not happy, and I said, "Why did you put me in this position?" Because it was like all the things I really hated doing, and we had a reorg. And his response was, "Well, you've done everything else I've ever asked you to do, and I didn't want to lose you." Now, in human design, I am a 3-5 generator with a 17.3 personality sun. And there could not have been a more clear moment of an expression of that coming out in that conversation. When you have a 5 in your profile, people have a tendency to project what they need on you. There's an unconscious expectation somehow that you can help. And that is absolutely accurate. If you have a 5 in your profile, you have a unique way of problem solving. And coupled with my 3 line, always experimenting, and my 17 in personality sun, meaning I am extremely good at seeing all sides of a problem and patterns and probability outcomes. As long as you give me the space, I will likely come up with some sort of solution. Now, this is probably also why I unconsciously tended to want to be in complex, high-pressure environments. 5s are miracle performers. The issue was that he had given me a problem that I really had no interest in solving. It wasn't my problem to solve. But for a while, I tried to force myself to do so, which is also a typical generator problem. I can make this work. But over time, burnout takes over. And ironically, I think I knew this somewhere in my subconscious, because when we were having that conversation, I even told him, there are other people that would really love to do this work, but I don't. And I knew I was somehow taking an opportunity away from someone that would be really great for it. Clearly, I was operating in my zone of competence or my zone of excellence, not my zone of genius, as Gay Hendricks would say. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you know I exited corporate after that conversation, very shortly thereafter. Now, had I known about my human design, and had I been making decisions from my human design back in those days, my life would have been definitely less frustrating. Now, your zone of excellence is a really comfortable place to be. You are doing the things. You know how to do the things. And you know how to do those things really freaking well. And people like you doing the things. But generally speaking, there's always this measure of something is not quite right, which is where I was. Whereas when you are in your zone of genius, it's like the skies part and you are brimming with energy and excitement. And sometimes when you're in your zone of excellence, Gay Hendricks calls this an upper limit problem. And I've seen this play out in my own life, obviously. And I've seen this play out in my clients' lives, in my friends' lives, families' lives. That moment of when you obtain a certain level of success, you will often subconsciously create drama in your life that cloud your joy and your ability to operate in your zone of genius. Now, he says there are 4 barriers to overcoming this problem. One is feeling in some way fundamentally flawed. 2, feelings of disloyalty or abandonment. Throughout our lifetime, we sort of make these unconscious agreements with people. Like, I don't want to leave this person behind. I don't want to outshine this person. Like, this person might leave me if I do X, Y, and Z. Number 3, believing that more success brings a bigger burden. And number 4, the crime of outshining. Now, all of those keep you in your zone of competence or your zone of excellence, but not in your full potential. And I thought this was interesting when I was going back over this, because I was like, if you are operating in alignment with your design, these things don't come up like this. There is no question of you're not flawed. You know you're not flawed. You know where you're more easily to be influenced versus the energy that you're transmitting out. So the feelings of disloyalty or abandonment, that outshining, the believing more success brings a bigger burden, they're really, like, when you're operating from your design, those aren't really issues anymore. So there's a reference in human design called your signature and your not self. And it shows us if we're in alignment with our design or we're out of alignment. And if you are out of alignment in your design, you're not going to be able to operate in your zone of genius. Now, obviously, the goal is to be in your design, alignment with your design all the time. But we are humans, so we do we have to course correct, right? And these feelings that come up from the not self are an opportunity for you to course correct. I won't say it's a red flag. It's a red flag if you feel this way over a long period of time. And I've certainly been in red flag territory. But let's go with yellow. Like, if you're paying attention, let's go with yellow. You start paying attention when you start feeling a certain way. You're like, it's like an invitation for you to dive into your chart, to go deeper to an area where you need to course correct. So let's break this down by type. And let's start with reflectors. This is the smallest percentage of the population that are reflectors. So sometimes when we see things listed out, reflectors are always at the end. So let's show some love here to our reflectors out there. Reflectors, when you are in your signature, like when you're moving in alignment, you're going to feel surprised on the regular. Like pleasantly, like, oh, really? Like intrigued. That comes along more often. When you're out of alignment, it is constant disappointment. Disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. You're probably in the wrong environment. You're surrounding yourself with the wrong people. Projectors. Your not self theme is bitterness and resentment. If you're not in alignment, you're not feeling valued, you're feeling undervalued, you're feeling underappreciated, you're feeling unseen. Your signature, though, Like when you're really operating in your zone of genius, you have that feeling of success. Now let's be careful here with some of these words. Success means different things to different people. So you've got to really give a think and feel on what does success feel like to you. For some people, it's welcomed, appreciated, invited. It's the opportunity to be understood in your deep wisdom. Okay? Manifestors. Your signature is peace. Like you feel like you're not restrained. You feel expanded. You feel like you're in an open field. Whereas your not self is anger. You feel like you've been placed in a box. You've got restraints on you. There's a lot of pressure of rules, perhaps. All of those are and it doesn't mean like anger, like it doesn't have to be like rage. I suppose it could be rage, but it's like you're just pissed off, right? It's like, I can't believe these people have got me like constrained like this. That is the not self. Generators. I am a generator, so I gotta like put my own spin here. Your signature satisfaction, like how you're moving in the world, is meaning something. It feels fulfilled. Your not self is frustration. Now, this is a little bit of a double whammy for me because I've got the 58 gene key, and the shadow of that is dissatisfaction. So I am super familiar with the feelings of frustration and dissatisfaction. Now I'm going to give another shout out to my Line 5 generators out there. Remember how I said earlier that people project their expectations on you if you have this in your profile? One of the challenges that you may have is, especially if you're operating in frustration, you're not self, and this is because this happened to me, this is how it's the huge red flag for me. It's like, who is here for me? Like everyone has these expectations and me pulling off some miracles, but where is my mighty mouse? And who's giving me the miracles? That can cause even more exponential frustration. If you are feeling that way right now, you really need to take a couple of steps back and look at what problems you are currently solving. Like, what are the problems that you're working on? Because I can guarantee you some of those are things that you do not want to be solving. That's why you're out of balance. It's a burnout flag, right? You are here to solve the problems that you really want to solve, that really light you up. Okay? Don't power through those problems that you are not here to solve. And last but not least, we have manifesting generator. Now, as you would expect, you have the signature combo of peace and satisfaction. And again, really feel into what peace means to you. Really feel into what satisfaction means for you. And your not self could present as anger or frustration. And it could be a combination of both, really, if you're a manifesting generator. So now if you're saying, hey, everybody has those types of feelings, Adrian. Well, you're absolutely correct. However, in my experience, there's nuance depending on your design. And something that I've been looking at more recently is I'm in a retreat with Richard Rudd, and we were, Richard is the founder of the Gene Keys, which I consider a sister modality to human design. And we were discussing last week the types of fear you're most likely to be challenged with based on your chart. And this is one of the reasons why I find these tools so powerful, because it's one thing to discuss fear. But when I can zero in on something more nuanced and specific with a client, or I can do this for myself, and to break it down at a very specific, unique to you thing, so it can be transformed, it's really powerful and incredible, because it's just I've been wrestling with this, and we take this one thing in the chart and go, have you contemplated this? Have you looked at it this way? You're like, oh, gosh. And I've had many, many, many moments for myself and with other people in doing that. And that's one of the reasons why I really love these tools. And you've heard me say many times, I like to use all the tools in the toolbox. All the tools, many tools in the toolbox. So you can use these themes to look at something when it presents itself and ask, is this my task? Is this something I want to do? Is this my problem to solve? Because you're going to feel that somewhere. Is this a yes or a no? And when you know and you're making decisions from your authority and using your strategy, that's really when this magic starts to happen when you're using this system. And for all my fives out there in particular, don't forget my favorite question to ask. Is this my problem to solve? Because I use this quite a bit. And as a generator, again, doesn't light me up. That would be a no. Remember, just because you can doesn't mean that you should or you should feel obligated to. Okay, so to wrap up, a couple of things. Be sure to follow me on social media, as I have been working on an upcoming guide to sort of support you in better integrating some of this. And so that you can look at some questions and go, you know what, am I out of alignment? Am I in alignment? How can I dig a little deeper here? So I'm working on a guide for that, and that should drop within the next week. And as I said, you can download your chart for free on my website. And little sneak preview for May, we are working on a release of a basic detailed version of your chart for mid-May. So that'll give you a little bit more information, and also some of the stuff I've covered in past podcasts, but so that you don't have to continue to listen to the podcast over and over again. But you can do that if you like. But having a printout, I think, would be helpful as a reference point. So as always, thanks for listening. Remember to find beauty every day and to seek the magic in the mundane. Thank you for listening to the Source Code Podcast. If you found this episode insightful and feel moved to, please leave a review and share it out with those you believe will find it helpful. You can check out my website for more information at www.adrianmcdonald.com. And for more of my more regular musings, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. I hope you have a beautiful week.